Hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Tardon, and welcome to Tardon Today. And we're back with Mike Biedenbaugh, my wonderful guest. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Dennis. How you doing today?
Well, it's November the 5th,
Yes.
2025, and part of your work in reviving, in this wonderful book that you have written, which is Reviving Our Republic. These are the thesis for how we're going to get back to a regular order, to be able to get something that can go on. And so here we are, the day after the election, of November the 5th. So please give me some insights and something that you've been thinking about.
Well, what I've been thinking about is leading up to this election and the absolute hysteria of how local people will vote. I mean, if I heard the name communist tied to the gentleman who was the Democratic nominee in
Hmm.
New York,
Mandami.
Mondami,
Hmm.
which is an avowed democratic socialist. But because we have no civic education in this country anymore, nobody understands the difference between that and a communist. And then for our president on 60 Minutes to say he's an avowed communist just shows that the president of the United States is 100% illiterate in how to determine political motivations of people.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just absurd. Now,
But that was to me though, Mike. I took that as to be a deliberate try to smear. It didn't
oh,
matter what the
absolutely.
truth is. It was just his opportunity to be able to use the C word and to use it out there, which would have been death, which would have been death so much for it. But we're doing some shifting in our understandings. And what else? What else from the election before we start talking about your book?
Well, the other was, there was so many, and I honestly, I've been on the road all morning, and so I haven't been able to really dive into except what I get every once in a while through my feed. It appears the Democratic governors that were have won in Virginia. Is that true?
Virginia and New Jersey,
And New Jersey.
and all three Supreme Court justices in Pennsylvania, they were reelected. The proposition to redistrict in California for just one time that passed
For one time.
for one time, and in other words, then it's going back. They're only doing it for this one
Well, so
election.
that's an interesting thing because I was asked by USA Today to give a comment on that. And I know on the ballot it was up for this time and two other times, 28 and 30. And I made clear that I thought doing more than one time was abusing the opportunity.
I
Uh,
agree. Now,
I
I
think
could be
that one
wrong,
time.
as I often am. No, but this was my understanding that it was only for 2026.
Yeah, so we'll find out about that. But I think my biggest takeaway that concerns me is how reactionary we are for governors to be elected based on a party that's not the president's is a very immature society that has to vote in reaction to someone else instead
I
of the
Yeah,
place. It really bothers me, and it just what it doesn't show that people are leaning another way and trying to change the country. It shows we are still the same country that elected Donald Trump. It's just we're reacting to the last two years.
yep. And
You
if
know,
we've done it twice, this is the thing that I always thought about the world. The world outside the United States could forgive us for electing Donald Trump once.
yeah.
But when we did it twice, now how are they going to be able to trust us or to do the things as far as, I mean, governing is hard. To govern a $5 trillion government, a yearly government, to be able to do this in the best of times, the best of governments is going to be hard. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be people in the wrong situation. But then if you add on top of that, completely eviscerating the top talent within the government, taking some of the best institutional knowledge and taking it away, just using this scythe to cut them down, that makes it the, I'm my hope is that there isn't any emergency that we are going to need the expertise to deal with.
Well, we will, and we will miss them. Now, the concept of needing to diminish the federal government, I write about that in the book. That it's
Exactly. That was
that
one of the, and I want to talk about that. So let's you were leading me perfectly into what I wanted to talk about there.
yeah. So here's the thing: it's how you do something, not just doing it, right? And again, we're in this reactionary mode where, um, one, we have a culture of politics where political leadership believes their constituency is only who voted for them. Okay, and this is a shift over the past 20 years that is very, very dangerous. And so that is definitely the current president's outlook, and all his minions and sycophants he's put in place.
Right.
Believes we're here because our constituents put us here, and ignoring the other half of the country. Well, ignoring at best, at worst, demonizing and making the enemy the other half of the country.
Right.
Now, I
And
view
I want to make it very clear. You are no flaming liberal. You
no,
are definitely you come from a very pragmatic position in many of your political views, and so you're looking at this from a concept of not just originalism, but also of bringing us to a place of sanity.
well, and to where we have a place where everybody is represented. So, I consider myself a social liberal, and in my neck of the woods, people see me through the cultural lens. And unfortunately, that's where many conservatives, especially here in South Carolina, define you as being conservative only culturally. If you don't go
Ah,
to church every Sunday, if you don't, if you believe in abortion, or you believe in gay marriage or whatever, then you're that's how they view conservatism. So they
right.
view me as a flaming liberal down here, even though when I sit there and talk to them about a conservative rendering of the Constitution, which to me is what's important on all of it. Because when you have a diverse society like ours, and the folks who wrote Project 2025 do not believe we're a diverse society. They think that's made up, and they do
Exactly.
not understand history or the nation at all.
Yes.
It's just absurd. But
Well,
so
that's why you have come into Project 2026,
yes.
which is what you're doing. This is what excited me so much. Another reason why, I mean, I never need a reason to reach out to you, but this was a great one to be able to do when I was reading your work on Project 2026, because the different points that you have, and some of them that we'll cover this time, and I hope you'll come back and we'll cover them even in even more depth. But like, for example, one of the things that you have that you to clarify what personhood means, because right now the Supreme Court, and correct me if I'm wrong, has defined corporations as a person, and so therefore they fall under the free speech of the First Amendment because they are persons.
Right. Well, I'll clarify.
Please.
The Supreme Court, the current Supreme Court has not made that as for themselves. They are recognizing the precedents ever since the 19th century of the slippery slope of how corporations and trusts have been able to, in order to be legal entities in the law, had to acquire the same rights of persons for themselves. And so that's been happening for all these years. And that's why, as a originalist, I didn't, as much as I know the problem of Citizens United, I
Yes.
understood why they did it. What troubles me is how everybody has stopped thinking they can do anything about it and say, well, we can fix it. And the Supreme Court would support it, because what it means is you go back to why they viewed it that way and fix it. That's what you do. And instead of politicizing the Supreme Court, just look at what they've done, whether you agree with it or not, but then go back and say, okay, Supreme Court, if that's the rules you're playing by, fine. Here's what we do: we go back and make an amendment to detach artificial personas away from natural persons, which is what the 14th Amendment was meant to be.
Exactly.
And that's an easy fix. Well, it's not an easy fix because of the politicization, but it's an easy logical conclusion to have as
Yes.
a goal and to pursue. And so that's what it is I'm trying to share, that these things are fixable.
Right.
And so that's
Well, all
that's
right. So let's go on to the next thing, because right now we're finding, when we talk about curbing monopolies, which is another what we're talking. Of course, we've done this through Teddy Roosevelt and trust busting and the things that we have.
yes.
We do have a history of this in the United States of what we've been able to do, but it appears to me, it feels as a member of the media, that we're seeing a consolidation of the media into just a very few corporations. The same thing with technology. We're seeing technology underneath the umbrella of only a few mega corporations that we're doing, and that concerns me enormously.
Well, that's good, because you're a good citizen, because it should, and it should concern everybody. You know, I grew up in a Republican household, and when I was, 19 years old, my first president I voted for was Reagan because that was the family tradition.
Absolutely.
And but halfway through, I realized that we were in a world of hurt because to we developed this method, especially under the neoconservative movement that that was part of Goldwater, and then Reagan was his
Exactly.
disciple from there, was this elevation of business and free market business as the ultimate societal foundation. And
Yes.
it's a terrible misreading of our history, and it's putting full faith in a capital system. Now, I fully believe in a capitalist society
Me
that
too.
is not run by capitalists. Okay, so let me define that. Capitalists are people who maneuver and manipulate capital for their benefit. Independent people who want to start a business and build wealth for themselves is utilizing a capitalist system of owning the means of production for
Absolutely.
themselves and making income off of it. But the problem with pure capitalism, when there's no government there to say, here's where the tables should be aligned, here's how the capital should flow, rules of the road, capital tends to pull and draw toward the center like gravity. And so, what we've seen in the past 50 years is an extraction of capital out of the rural areas of this country into the urban markets and into Wall Street.
Right.
And and so just like you said with the media, when we were kids, there was 90 or so companies that ran 80% of the national media in the
Right.
country.
And
Now
there were local newspapers.
and they
Didn't
were and,
you?
well, yeah, because there was laws that said one one company that owns a newspaper in the market can't own more than one newspaper in one market, right?
Yep.
And the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which was one of Bill Clinton's absolute worst things he pushed. Well, it started with Reagan and Bush, but Clinton was trying to aim for the middle, and that's how he got elected. Went for it too, and it destroyed the way radio and local media worked, and
Yes.
also the fair rule where you had the equal time rule, where you had to say if you do a political opinion, you have to have someone else to give the other
Exactly.
side. That was ended, and that's exactly what gave rise to folks like Rush Limbaugh
Watson.
and all of these guys, right?
That's right. And we ended up with that way. Absolutely.
That's it. So, but it's interesting now because I talk about how those things need to be reinitiated because people always complain, why don't we have Walter Cronkite anymore? Why don't we have people we trust? And I say, because over the past 50 years, we have destroyed the mechanism that ensured those people would float to the
Exactly.
top and be in front of your television. Because those people aren't there anymore. Now it's advertisers and people trying to make money and people trying to bring money into the place. And you don't have objective reporting anymore. You have
Exactly.
opinionated reporting, and
Well,
that's the mess we're in.
can, I use an analogy, and I need to run it by you to see whether or not uh, it holds. Okay, I see capitalism like professional football. Imagine if there were no referees.
Right.
Imagine if there were no sidelines, and they just ran around, and whoever had the biggest team, whoever had the most money. I mean, imagine, would that even be fun? But if we end up having sidelines and we have referees that call plays when some call fouls when there's something that is out of bounds, and there's certain rules that everyone gets a chance to play by, we get an entertaining game. We get an opportunity to truly to have something that ends up being not just fair, but entertaining and valuable. So I like my capitalism with some fetters, that they actually have some guidelines that we can do, so that everybody who enters the game can say, okay, well, these are my guidelines. These are the ones that I can play, and I can trust that there will be referees who will, should we have them, be able to do it. So
That's a
that's
great one,
what
actually. I love that analogy. I'm going to use it and I'm going to use
please.
it more. Thank you. When I was running for Congress here, I'd have this conversation when I was in a small town, and I'd be talking to folks, and they say, "Well, we talk about when I talk about we need regulatory measures on to guide capitalism." They push back on it, and I'd ask them. I'd say, "Okay, so we're in the town. Y'all had the Hogs and Hens Festival last fall, right? Where you had people from all over come and set up booths. Let me ask you something. What did the town do to make that work? Well, they drew lines on the street where the booths could go. They had a time when they could move in. They had a thing, and how did they pick who could? Well, whoever came forward equally, no matter what the company, they all had a seat at the table. I'm saying that is how capitalism is supposed to work on a community level. You've got to have the regulation. And if I'm in a town where I can see where the town square is laid out, I'm like, somebody came here and drew out where the square was and made sure businesses where they could go. They set aside where the church could go. Every town in South Carolina, for the most part, was formed by someone who understood for the town to thrive, they needed to know where things needed to go. And that needs to go on a national level. And so that's just a conversation that I'm trying to have with everybody. Capitalism works when it's not run by capitalists, when it's
I
run by
love that.
people.
That really is. I mean, you would say that that's amazing. All right, so we talked about curbing the military. I mean, curbing the monopolies. Let's move to the military, because one of the things that you have is that reigning in the military-industrial complex, and you and I both have our admiration for Dwight Eisenhower's closing goodbye speech. His where
It
he
was his
said,
farewell address, basically.
it's a farewell address. Exactly. That was, thank you. And so this is what was his emphasis. And this is a man who knows a little bit about the military. This is not someone from the outside. And he said that this was going to be one of our biggest. And of course, now we have taken all of our all of the Defense Department and spread it out over the of all the different congressional districts, so that a little part is made over here and a little part is made over here, that gives all the congressmen a reason never to reform this.
That's right. It's a jobs program now. Our military has turned into a jobs program and an economic development program. Let somebody in this state, in South Carolina, talk about closing any military base, and you will have someone voted out in 10 seconds. And it's an addiction, again, to economic development locally based on an inflated system. And it's fascinating with Eisenhower, because I talked to a lot of people about this, and we have to remember, how did we build the equipment for World War II? We were a country that was looking at not being involved in military expansion in the world, and
At
all of a
all.
sudden, and all of a sudden, we are thrust into World War II. What do? We went to Chrysler. Okay, stop building cars. We need you to build tanks. We were able to build one of the largest militaries through private industry in that had ever happened before, and be able to defeat two major militarized empires. But what happened? And this is what Ike saw. He saw those financial forces come in and go, ah,
Ah.
okay, we don't want to have to make Chrysler do this again or Ford do this again. We need companies to make them all the time. And so we're stuck in a place where you have to have certain technological advances in equipment. Can it be made on the spur of the moment in a crisis, or does it need a system to where they have the expertise to make them? Do you need an economy of scale to make the type of stuff we're making now?
Right.
And that's the question. That's a hard one, but it's one we have to face and have to try to figure out how to isolate that profit motive from what it is, and shareholders from what it is they're doing. And we just have to start having that conversation,
Right.
because the ultimate expression of the military industrial complex was when we had, during the Biden administration, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense were both shareholders in some of the largest military contractors, and they were on the board before they came back into Biden. And of course, the equipment they were sending to Ukraine was from those companies. Now, I'm not saying they were corrupt, but it's a
But
corrupt system. But it
no,
is
you're
a
not. But it isn't. That's not a good look.
That's not a good look. And they might have been saying, we didn't mean to. We want to help protect Ukraine. All of that may be true, but you don't build a template
Yes.
of a system to where you give people that opportunity to where it looks bad. Now, what we have is an administration that doesn't care how it looks. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
care how it looks.
Yeah. They. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They are the ultimate expression of, we're tired of playing these games. We're tired of saying, well, we don't support Taiwan, but we do kind of support Taiwan, but we can't say it. All these little nuanced ways we deal in the world, they don't care, which is part of the charm of many of these people who are tired of playing political games. But I tell you, it's going to bite us the way
Totally.
it's happening now. It is going to
I
be
think
a
so. And
devastating outcome.
I think we're going to get bitten, and this is why I'm going to want to continue to have these conversations with you, because one of the things I want to know, Mike, is that tell me your experience now as you're beginning to get more national attention, as you're beginning to get more. Tell me your journey on how you're experiencing this, and what your sense is of what's going on for you.
Well, on several levels. On the level of what I'm doing on my YouTube channel versus TikTok. On YouTube channel, for some reason, the algorithms are putting me constantly in the feed of MAGA and Trump supporters, and so I'm getting eviscerated on YouTube in the comments of people who comment. However, on the likes, I'm getting 4 likes to 1 dislike. So
Wow.
the people that are quietly just watching are showing we support it. We're not going to sit here and talk about it and get in arguments with
Right.
narcissists. But on TikTok, it's almost universally, oh my gosh, this is wonderful, because it's younger people. And so there's that. The other thing that is wonderful is, in the PR campaign I'm doing, I am getting the book in hands of very important people. Now, I can't share who they are yet, but
No, no,
and
no,
I
no,
haven't
no.
heard from them. I haven't heard from them yet. I'm communicating to their assistants who got it, and so my goal is, there's going to be a moment to where some of these high-profile people will take this book and say, "Bring them on," and
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping for.
Yep.
And I'm confident. I just got another 10 reviews on Amazon. I've got reading clubs that are reading the book, and I got 10 more reviews on Amazon that are 5-star. One was 4-star, but
Wonderful.
it was very, very good review. I'm getting great reviews on Amazon. So it's just a case of sharing the story, having wonderful friends like you who'll have me on and share this and talk about it, because all of us
Oh,
together.
hell yes. Well, I mean,
all-
you're to me, you're my Thomas Paine.
oh, that's
You
kind.
talk common sense. Everything that you're saying is resonates with me deeply on this is decent, this is fair, this is smart, this is what we're doing. And that's what Thomas did.
Well, and so this is part of the corporate system we have that's so frustrating, because back 30 years ago, Loretta Lynn became known because she was able to take her record and go to DJs and they would play it just because she showed up
Exactly.
and they
From
liked it.
from from one radio station to
To
another.
another. Well, that's impossible. When I started managing bands in the late 90s, the Telecommunications Act killed that. And so you can't do that anymore. The same thing with books. So I'm an independent publisher. I have my own publishing company. I did it. I'm funding all of this myself. But the system makes it almost impossible for me to get into national media, because the channels are funneled from the big publishing companies straight to the big media companies. And
Right.
so that's just the challenge I'm having, but
But
it's
that's
one I'm
but
willing
that's
to
an
take on.
insurgency.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing. You and I, you and I are insurgent broadcasters. We're
yeah,
insurgent media people, and this is the way it has to work. And we have to work. I think of it like that snow ball effect. That little by little, it's rolling to gather up, and then suddenly, one time that you hit that moment to when it begins to gather the momentum. And that's why I wanted to talk with you now. And that's why I'm going to want to continue to talk with you and do anything that I can to promote these ideas, because everything that you're talking about are the conversations that we need to have. We need to have them with the MAGA people to say, what is this working? How would you, and I love your town square comment. And how would you do it if we were doing it? And can we get back to that, because that's really the key. So when I think about it, Mike, is that we all have so many shared values. We want peace. We want good jobs for our family. So if we work on those processes
yeah,
and look, I think one of the things that I'm most where I feel that is one of the biggest challenges of dealing with the MAGA movement is the MAGA movement is a movement of victimization.
yeah,
I never have to look at myself, because all my problems are being caused by them.
yeah.
Everything, and that's the whole movement is built around otherizing, instead of saying, let's look at ourselves and let's see what we can do, and let's see what we can do together.
Yes, and then giving up. Also, there's an element of giving up their own sovereignty for the words of someone that. I mean, I had a
Absolutely.
discussion the other day because I pushed back on the whole bombing these boats in the Southern Caribbean coming out of Venezuela. Nobody knows. Everybody knows that these little boats will never make it to Florida, and yet they're being bombed. And so
Even
one
if they
guy,
were,
right,
even
but
if they were, let's say, I mean, let's say that they were headed for Clearwater, on the way.
but the
We don't
thing,
have we don't have the Coast Guard that would intercept them. I mean, you are tracking them. You are tracking them.
yeah. And so the fascinating thing is, the person I was talking to said, yeah, but what's the matter? These people are drug cartel drug dealers, and so we want to blow them out of the water. I said, so now you believe everything the government tells you? I mean, didn't you put Donald Trump in power because you didn't believe the government? And now all of a sudden the government is correct? Are you kidding me? You know, this is, I'm convinced that the Admiral Multi who left because of
Who
this.
left? Yes.
And that gives me hope. That gives me hope that there's people who see this and see what's going on. And so that's what Project 2026 is about, is kind of a pushback on 2025. And I
Yep.
have, you know, here is the book for 2025.
Right.
Almost 900 pages of
Exactly.
assuming Americans can't govern themselves. They need a leader to tell them how to act. That's what this assumes. This assumes we're we the people and we could take care of ourselves. We don't need to give up sovereignty to a more powerful executive. And that's what we have to remember. And that's what we just have to keep pushing, preaching, and hopefully make it happen.
Mike Biedenbaugh, boy, did that a mic drop for me. All right, thank you so much. Let's do it again. Don't you dare refuse my request, because
Never.
I've got to talk to you more about this as we're going along the process. Because one thing we know is that there's not going to be any light bulb moment. It's going to be a rheostat. It's going to take the work, and it's going to take the hard work, and it may not even be in my lifetime or whatever, but I know that without us doing it, it's not going to happen. So we have all got to do this in order to be able to right this ship.
That's right. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mike Biedenbaugh, and thank you, everybody, for coming on to another episode of Tardon Today, and we will see you all next time.